Welcome to the Political Insider, your favored source of keeping you updated with all of our political news in South Africa. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about the information we're giving you. So let's crack on. A bit of a quieter day when it came to the commissions of inquiry. We had a day off in Parliament. There was other stuff going on in Parliament, but not the ad hoc committee hearings that we've grown to know and to love. In fact, next up is going to be the Deputy Minister of Police, Julius Malema's big mate and sponsor, Cat Matlala. It's going to be interesting to hear. I presume there's a good chance that Julius Malema might be off ill or something today, because he tends to not want to question people that he's associated with. So this is going to be an interesting one. Not sure what he can say because, he's the Deputy Minister of Police. It's hard to see what these deputy ministers do other than cost us money. There was a little bit of action at the Madlanga Commission where the ballistics expert, a captain by the name of Itumeleng Mashatile, he is the ballistics expert who almost totally botched the ballistics on the murders of Armand Swart, as well as a few other people, all of these DJs, somebody and DJ Vintos, all the other people that got assassinated. And the ballistics expert did his best to botch the ballistics report, but according to the expert, he said the errors were, I like this one, only in South Africa, good faith errors. In other words, he wasn't trying to derail the investigation. He's just bad at his job. I presume that's what he means when he says good faith errors. I mean, the guy failed to include 15 cartridges that they had taken at the site of the hit on Armand Swart. Now, hell, I'm no ballistic expert, but at least gather the stuff up and at least put it in your report that you found the things. But this guy apparently says, good faith, didn't make these errors. Do you know the funny story? I mentioned the DJs that got murdered. Now, it's not funny when people get murdered. In the case of the one DJ, him and two others got killed. The other, it was a DJ and one other that got killed. I mean, this is really, it could be one of those movies that starts out funny and ends up quite serious. There was the big drugs bust in KZN where they came upon 200 kilos of cocaine, right, in a massive drug bust at the Durban harbour. So this stuff gets sent to the police. The police in Durban, where one would imagine you've got, I'd imagine police capture, ground zero, decide that there's not enough space to keep the stuff in Durban. They must send it to Pretoria because that's where the police facility to hold evidence, where they've got the biggest facility. So they send it to Port Shepstone. I'm not making this up. So 200 kilos of cocaine, unmarked and everything, gets sent to Port Shepstone, where it gets stored in an office with no security. And during load shedding, somehow somebody knew that there was something in an office in a police place at a police station in Port Shepstone, literally walks in and walks out with 200 kilos of cocaine. And what has followed that is a series of murders. Right? In many ways, this 200 kilos of cocaine is what has caused all the problems. Suddenly, it's no surprise that DJs and singers and people involved in the leisure industry, especially nightclubs, were getting killed. This stuff found its way onto the market, and everybody got a little piece of it, and everybody suddenly became a cocaine seller. And the crime syndicates hated this because it was meant to be their cocaine, and they went around shooting everybody. So, if it was meant to destabilize the market and bring a few more people out, it certainly did what it was meant to do. But yeah, so far we haven't heard which bright spark thought it was a good idea to send it to Port Shepstone and why. Right? This isn't difficult to work out. That this stuff you probably want to keep under lock and key and maybe guarded. Instead, they put it in a place in Port Shepstone, and many allegations link this to the murders of those DJs, the murders of AKA, and a few other renowned people. It all seems to stem from this bust of cocaine, which then ended up on the free market. But obviously, somebody was selling to anybody who felt that they could on-sell it. So at some point, somebody would make a comedy movie. Hopefully, it won't be set in Los Angeles, but set in South Africa, so that at least you can make some revenue out of it. But it is, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be hysterical how people thought this was a good idea. So like I said, a lot of the news today was outside of the commissions. And in one of the most surprising stories of the day, Cat Matlala, you remember former Minister Becky Taylor's best friend, was denied bail yesterday. Denied bail. Cat Matlala. This is after last week, Katiso Molefe was granted bail for 400,000 rand, and it's obviously created quite a storm. Quite clearly, people listen to, I think that some of our officials, our civil servants of all description, are getting a little bit nervous. And perhaps the fact that all the way up to the acting judge president in Gauteng are having to answer questions. That acting judge president in Gauteng, Aubrey Ledwaba, it has been alleged, was involved in granting bail to Katiso Molefe, or certainly influencing that outcome. Suddenly, Cat Matlala doesn't get bail? Well. What next? A politician goes to jail? It's the only thing that would surprise me more. But yeah, look, if we keep the pressure up, people will have to do their jobs. That is the bottom line. But that is reasonable news. Then it was the turn of this guy, our deputy president, Paul Mashatile, to tell party members that perhaps the ANC should do a better job. This is the same guy who, as a civil servant, earning, second most important role in the country, one heartbeat away from the presidency, earning, I think 3 or 4 million rand a year in perks, which is great, but manages to turn that into property holdings exceeding 70 million rand. He's a business whiz kid. But he's telling those low-level councillors and that they should do a better job. So anyway, he said, these were his words, we need to introspect. Perhaps we deployed the wrong councillor or the wrong mayor or the wrong minister. We must correct these mistakes. What, should everybody that gets deployed be able to turn a couple of million rand into a 70 million rand property holding? Are those the right people? Maybe you should buy yourself a mirror and have a look on the inside, because quite clearly, as we know, that when you've got your second most important person in the party with this kind of property holding, doing that well out of politics, it's very difficult to tell that poor person who's just, sorting out a water tanker contract or something like that he must do a better job. But me as deputy president, don't look here, look there. Yeah, I think that the clean out has to start at the top with people like this that say, perhaps we deployed the wrong people. Yeah, perhaps you deployed the wrong people at the top. Now in Gauteng, our politics are getting pretty stupid. Now the Democratic Alliance have moved to put a vote of no confidence forward against the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, because as we've reported on quite extensively, his militia has been found to be illegal, so something we all suspected. But after he had established this militia, after he had shown his colors, after he had done his raids on Pretoria Girls High, which he loves to do. Every 6 months he goes to Pretoria Girls High and accuses somebody of racism. After all of this, the Democratic Alliance voted to put this guy in as premier. It was because of the votes of the Democratic Alliance that he is currently the premier of Gauteng. This was after the Democratic Alliance goes into a government of national unity with the ANC, warts and all. It's deciding that what they're going to do is save us from the other people, but they give us these people. Now the Democratic Alliance think that it's a good idea to have a motion of no confidence to remove this guy. Now, Solium Samanga, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, thinks this is a good idea, and now he's going to be shocked. President Ramaphosa type shocked, because all the other parties are saying, well, hang on a second, you voted for this guy. Now you're saying to us, we can't keep this guy on as premier. Well, where were you in June, July of 2024 when you were voting to install this guy? We understand that the expectation was that he would include you in his provincial cabinet, which he decided not to do. But you're surprised? Are you surprised when you keep a pet Rottweiler and it bites you? That surprises you? Well, the DA here are playing really stupid politics, because now they're going to put forward a motion of no confidence. You've already said that Doomsday is MK and EFF. They're not going to vote with you, and they've already said so. We know that the Patriotic Alliance is already just one shade of green away from joining the ANC, as are the other ANC proxies like Rise Mzansi and Build One South Africa. Action SA have already thrown their lot in with the ANC. But on top of this, the ANC is your alliance partner. You're telling those people not to vote this guy out after you voted him in. And you're going about it by saying, guys, we've got to improve governance. Where were you July last year? Why didn't you vote against him then? It was obvious what we were dealing with, right? The Panyaza Lesufi stories have been around for ages. So this is going to fail. This is going to put egg on the face of the DA. This is going to hurt the DA in their mayoral campaigns in Johannesburg, Tshwane, everywhere else, because they're doing very, very well at not being popular with anybody. They seem to, it's everybody else's fault. Well, when it's everybody else's fault, then maybe you should start looking at the way that you're conducting your politics, because you're telling people who aren't your allies to vote against your ally. This could only make sense to the Democratic Alliance in this particular case. I do not understand what they're trying to achieve. Sadly, this only emerged after our interview with Helen Ziller, because I would love to have asked her how it happens that your alliance partner, the ANC, you're going to the people you hate to say, please vote them out. Man, oh man, I don't understand. But perhaps we can illustrate the relationship better. And maybe Solium Samanga should have been part of this delegation, a business delegation that went to Vietnam. This is really embarrassing, right? A top-end business delegation. And I'm going to leave you with these visuals here. I'm going to ask you once again to subscribe to the Political Insider. But South Africa, let me just remind you, we have got 50% unemployment, no economic growth. Our top politicians are in league with criminal syndicates. Our criminal justice system is captured. What else could possibly be going wrong with South Africa? We've been tariffs put on by our biggest importer of our goods. So go out there and do some business with new markets. So off they go to a conference in Vietnam. And there's some heavy hitters there, including the president, Ministers Lamola, Minister Parks Tau, Trade and Industry, Kombutso Chaveni, who's the Minister of in the presidency, our Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen. And in a place where you're looking for investment, where you want people to take you seriously, and you're there to sell South Africa. Between the same coalition that's having a problem in Gauteng, where one coalition partner is telling non-coalition partners to vote out the premier from your coalition partner. This is how our senior politicians are behaving. Now, perhaps I'm just being old and old-fashioned, but I'd say there's a time and a place, and this was neither the time nor the place. And I'm going to leave you to think of what our politicians, how seriously they are taking your situation in South Africa. Let's play out with this. Thank you for joining me.